15-year NFL vet, two-time Super Bowl champ, co-host of the Snap Count, Let's Go, and the Steelers radio post-game show, of course, on WDVE. Charlie Batch, what a year for you. Congratulations, you are a Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Famer. That happened last weekend. What was that like?
Oh, that was awesome. It definitely caught me by surprise because I did not expect my name to be mentioned with a lot of the greats that were on there, but to be able to see and share the stage with a good friend of mine, Swin Taylor Cash, and you see Sean Casey, who was here, Pittsburgh's own. So just to see the whole state represented, it was just humbling, and I'm grateful for the nomination committee for selecting me throughout this process. So I'm truly grateful. It's
beautiful. It's well-deserved. And now let's talk some football. I'm sure you watched last night. You watched your Lions. The defense held Tampa to a season low in points, a season low in yards. This is a team that was roaring, the MVP talk for Baker, all of that. Now, Detroit's offense always explosive. When their D plays this well, and it's these, like, guys who were on practice squad yesterday, what does that tell you?
That lets me know their depth is solid as can be. And one thing you always pride yourself on when you're in locker rooms, especially when you know you have good teams, you always say we have starters and we have starters in waiting. And everybody expected the weakness that come in the secondary, but those guys showed up in a big way. And Arthur Millette, I know his time in Pittsburgh, he did a lot of good things while he was here. And to see him actually go out there and make some of those plays, man, it was just truly great to see him go out there and ball and have some fun.
Somehow the Packers are still, as of this morning on FanDuel Sportsbook, do we have the odds for the NFC? Packers are still number one. I don't know about that. What do you make of that? The Lions are, you know, they're 5-2. They're plus 340 right now. What do you think?
Yeah, that's one of the ones where you're like, nobody wants to tie a game, but then you're like, wait a minute, that actually benefits us in the standings as they're sitting at the tops of the division. And I've only had one tie throughout the course of my career, so I know how that impacts you. But again, a lot of it's going to be told here, especially on Sunday night. You have a big game between the Packers and the Steelers, and, you know, either there's somebody going to show up and be the contender and one's going to be the pretender. So, you know, this is going to create separation between this game. But you have to give credit to the NFL, the schedule makers. They had this one circled, and it's proven to be a big game here.
This is going to be so fun, this game. Obviously, I was already thinking about it last week and asking guests about it. When you look at that, as far as even just the familiarity, the emotions of that, what's the first thing Charlie Batch thinks about when it's Packers and Steelers in Pittsburgh to kick off Week 8?
Well, there's two things. The two things that come to mind. One is in 2009 when it was Ben Roethlisberger versus Aaron Rodgers, and the game went all the way down to the wire, and that was Ben's first 500-yard game as he hit Mike Wallace for the touchdown with no time on the clock. That was a phenomenal game. And, of course, the second one I can remember, but I try not to, only because that happened in Super Bowl 45 where the Packers ended up knocking us off and now against Aaron Rodgers. And that was a tough one to take, only because we knew they were going to break that team up. And ultimately, that's what the Steelers organization did. And one thing about Pittsburgh is if you don't win a Super Bowl, they do not even acknowledge you nor celebrate your accomplishments of making it to the Super Bowl. So that's always a tough one, even though we're approaching almost 15 years from that game.
Are you worried about these Steelers?
I am. There's some concern, but there's things that are correctable. And for me, it's communication. And the thing that's happening in big moments in the fourth quarter, and you go back to the Ireland game against the Vikings, big play, they needed to make something happen, but yet defensively they weren't on the same page. They busted coverage, and Jordan Addison is running down the field scot-free. That was the play that Peyton Wilson actually tackled him on the 1-yard line. Now, they escaped that with the victory. That's fine. But ultimately, these things are creeping in here now because, again, at the end of the game against the Bengals on Thursday night, yes, we understand T. Higgins making that catch at the end of the game and sliding, but the play that happened beforehand, miscommunication, busted coverage, and Jamar Chase is running from the defense's right to left, and he's running scot-free, getting the Bengals in the field goal range. So it's just tough. So they have to clean those things up in a hurry.
I think I'm with you that it's fixable because they just have too much talent to be as bad as they are. If I look at the numbers of it, right, they are 31st. That is crazy. 31st on defense. I will say this, though. It's not like it's week 2. We're going into week 8, and it's not fixed. So what's the problem?
Yeah, and a lot of people go back, and if you remember Mike Tomlin's comments during training camp, and he said, I would truly believe that this defense can be historical. And right now, they're nowhere near that. And like you mentioned, they're at the bottom of the league. And a lot of that stemmed from their first-round draft pick at the beginning of the season, Derek Harmon not being there. That's why teams were rushing on them. They started to see an uptrend over the past few weeks, but then all of a sudden we see the Bengals rushing for 142 yards throughout the course of that game. And that's just something that cannot happen, especially when you have a defense that is going to pride themselves on stopping the run, and that did not happen.
When you say it's communication, we're saying these things aren't happening, and they're clearly too talented. I'm just going to ask you point blank, like, what needs to happen with the DC? What does the DC need to do, Terrell Austin?
But number one is making sure that he's getting all of his pieces back, because he has not had the full complement of this defense since the season has started. Now he's starting to kind of trend that direction. They did have a bye 2 weeks ago. You have a mini bye that you had over the weekend. But for this team right now, they cannot afford any more injuries, because if for them to get to where they want to get to, which is the number one seed in hosting playoffs here at Acrisure Stadium, they have to play 10 consecutive games. And with that, you have to have some type of luck on your side. If that happens, I can see them slowly but surely getting to where they want to get to. But again, they have to prove that on a week-to-week basis, especially when you see the emergence of Lamar Jackson being healthy, and people still sense that Baltimore has a chance in this division if they get everything healthy. So again, Terrell Austin, he has to just make sure the full complement, don't overthink things. If you need to simplify it because of those corners and get the basic covers and then start growing off of that, that's one thing. But they all just have to get on the same page. So I think Terrell is going to be okay. It's just a matter we just need to make sure we see that week to week.
Oh, we got to start seeing it week in, week out at this point of the season. It's the headlining game, right? It's the Sunday night treatment. All the hoopla, we know why. It all has to do with Aaron Rodgers. Charlie, if they don't throw the ball deep all over the field in this game, I'm going to be out on the Steelers, I think. I cannot believe, and I understand Arthur Smith, and maybe that's more his vibe or whatever. When you have Rodgers and DK, you cannot be bottom five in explosive passes. I refuse to subscribe to that. Why not, and what do you want to see?
DK is as advertised. There's no question about that connection, what you're seeing with Aaron Rodgers and DK. The challenge is defensively, they don't respect the number two receiver. And because of that, you have Calvin Austin. He should be back from injury this week, we're hoping. And then Roman Wilson has not showed that trajectory of what they would like to be from a number two receivers. And, of course, earlier this offseason, they ended up getting rid of George Pickens, who was having a monster year down in Dallas. And you would love to have that on this offense, but unfortunately he's not here. But when you look at just what George Pickens is doing as the number two receiver, he has 36 catches, 607 yards, 6 touchdowns. But then when you look at the receiver group as a whole for the Steelers, they have 38 catches, 612 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So that just lets you know you let a piece walk out that door, but now that receiver group outside of DK has to step up in a big hurry if you are going to now soften up some of those defenses.
Should they have let that piece out the door?
I don't think they should. And the reason why is because they paired George Pickens up with arguably the worst coordinator in the history of the NFL. And I'm not throwing shade. The numbers are what they are. And then so he lost more games in Pittsburgh than he ever lost in his career. And he had a bad rap, and he didn't know how to lose. And I'm okay with that. And now you're seeing him showcase in an offense that are now throwing the football around on what his skills are. And ultimately, he's going to get a huge contract, whether that's in Dallas or elsewhere, because this guy can flat out play. He's
the perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers. Because when Aaron Rodgers is letting it rip, we're seeing 70-yard throws. Like, don't tell me Aaron can't do it, because he did it and he can. I think there's a world, and I've talked about this on the show, and I get a lot of pushback. They could have made it happen with both. They could have brought in DK and kept George. I think there's a lot of people who are like, well, they got rid of George because they brought in DK and it was more like a safer choice, or like what? No, there's a world where y'all could have had both, and I do think the team's struggling without that second guy. So that said, Charlie Batch, legendary Steelers QB, who are we trading for?
That part I don't know, and I agree with you when you make the comment they could have kept
Yes.
George. There's 100% because you still had him 1 year on his rookie contract.
For your Super
Then
Bowl
you
run.
worry as he walking out the door. Then you worry about your compensatory picks. That's fine, but again, that there's a hole that they have to fix. Don't know what they're thinking about within the Steelers organization. All we know is for 2 years we have heard the Steelers potentially trading for a number 2 receiver. It didn't happen last year, and now we're continuing on those conversations. So again, on the national stage, hopefully one of those guys outside of DK can showcase around the country of what they're capable of, and then not eliminate this conversation.
I think they're going to trade because I think they're going to make a trade. I'm going to show you some targets here. By the way, I should add Tyler Lockett to this. He was released. So he's available. Out of these guys, plus the additional Tyler Lockett, who do you think they should get? Name one.
Oh man, if I had to guess off of all of those, and you're not talking contracts or money, I would say Jordan Addison. And the reason why I say Jordan Addison is because he did spend a year at the University of Pittsburgh before he ended up finishing out at USC. So they're familiar with his game, and I could see something like that potentially happening. But again, a lot of that comes to the fact of how much do you have to give up, because right now the Steelers are stacking draft picks. So you don't want to give up the farm to get whoever that number 2 receiver is. So I think if that comes with some type of bargain, then maybe that move happens.
Love that. The Best of Batch Foundation, when I get to that before you go, it's been going on, I mean, like 26 years, I think. Unbelievable. It's the first thing I think of when I see you, which is crazy because you're so passionate about it. And you have your 16th annual In the Pocket with Charlie Batch fundraiser on November 13th. What do we need to know? I know you guys built that new clubhouse. It's like 1 million square feet for the community.
No, it is exciting. So yes, we actually just expanded. We went from 5,300 square feet to 33,000 square feet, which we opened up April of 2024. So we are excited to showcase that off, as you can see on the screen here. But ultimately what we do is we have one fundraiser a year. We call that In the Pocket with Charlie Batch. It's a pool, poker, ping pong, and this year we are adding cornhole tournament to the equation. Nice. And this helps raise money for our STEAM programs. And we say STEAM instead of STEM because we include the A for arts. And also OST, which is out of school time. This is a challenging time as kids is let it out of school, and what are they doing prior to families getting home. So that OST time is very critical during that time. So again, this helps raise funds for this particular program. And again, we are super excited. It's going to be Thursday, November the 13th, and we are doing it at the Distillery Complex here in Pittsburgh. So we're super excited to showcase off that event. So if anybody wants more information about that, they can go to batchfoundation.org. You'll be able to see it again. That's batchfoundation.org. You'll be able to be a part of it at some point. So if you can't be there physically, we will actually have an auction online that people around the country can participate in. So we are just truly grateful and humble for everybody who believes in the mission and vision of the Best of the Batch Foundation. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who supports us.
And thank you for everything that you do to support the community. It looks unreal, this clubhouse. The photos, the images, it's absolutely unreal. So appreciate all the work that you do with the foundation. And of course, you can catch Charlie Batch on the Snap Count, the Steelers radio postgame show on WDVE and KDKA TV in Pittsburgh. You are a busy man all season long. Good luck to your Steelers.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And when you get to Pittsburgh, you got to come past for a visit. We love the show.
I would love
and give it a tour.
Thanks for the invite. Now you're smiling, but you wouldn't be smiling if you were still on the field with this next guest. We have Nik Bonitto.